founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Simon, and Simon and I are going to talk about LinkedIn. But we're not going to talk about LinkedIn algorithms. Well, we may do. We may get into that. But I mean, what we're going to do is it's going to be basic. Really, really, really basic stuff, because Simon has been on a journey, which I think is really, really interesting. And I hope you will do as well. But Simon, before we get into this, where can people find you?
They can find me right here in a sealed box.
With the egg cartons on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. They can find me at the 3 W's, Simon Wells VO, the VO standing for voiceover.com. Simon Wells VO on LinkedIn, Facebook, just about TikTok. I'm experimenting with that at various people's recommendation.
You are actually, yeah.
Strange new world. New world. For my mindset, TikTok is still a sort of a teenage gadget. It's not for the likes of me, But I'm willing to be proved wrong.
I think it has its place, and I think the thing is, Gary V once made this big announcement that he was on Snapchat and how amazing it was and brilliant, and then kind of Snapchat has kind of fallen by the wayside. And people went to him, you said that Snapchat was going to be amazing. He said, yes, but what did I learn? I said, I learned how to create 30-second, 1-minute video.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Is that a skill that I needed? Yeah, it is, because TikTok's now, and it's one of those things that you just don't know what skill is going to be needed, and all of these things gives you an ability to do just other things.
Yeah, totally. And you don't know how long each thing is going to last. It may have been that Snapchat was going to be the dominant force for decades to come, so it would have been foolish to not go near it.
Yeah,
just in case. You never know. You've got to try all the pies.
You have. I mean, I didn't actually say this. I meant to say before we came on, but you're well known for your interesting facts, aren't you?
I am indeed. Yeah. So I just love random facts. I often go walking in central London and just sort of exploring and reading the history and that sort of thing. And I'm like a walking human pub quiz encyclopedia. And I just love random facts. And I have a little thing on my LinkedIn space called Fact of the Day, which has its own little jingle, which is slowly becoming legendary in certain parts of the world. There are people walking around going, I've lost my keys, ping. Who fed the cat, ping. Because my jingle is Fact of the Day, ping. It's nice. It's a nice little following.
It's lovely, yeah. I mean, you've been on an amazing journey, because you were a postman for 17 years.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So I've had a weird career path. I'm not even sure you can call it a path. It's kind of like a series of hops. Via a brief career in IT, it's like so brief, like a few months, and then an estate agent. But yeah, I'd been a postman for 17 years. I delivered mail in the Staines area, TW18, where what's his name, Ali G is from. That's our claim to fame. Ping it, baby. Yeah, Henry. So postman in Staines, 17 years. Good fun, out and about, getting exercise, meeting lots of interesting people, having a podcast on your headphones. Not so nice in the cold weather when you're delivering papier-mâché, but take the rough with the smooth. And a handful of years ago, I had a back problem, which led to some spinal surgery. I was hobbling around with a walking stick at one stage, not conducive with throwing 20-kilo sacks of mail on and off a transit van. So I had to leave. I had no option. And whilst I was sitting around one day feeling a bit sorry for myself, a bit worried, my whole adult career had been...
17 years is a long time.
Huge time. I don't think I'd quite appreciated at the time how long it had been. And it wasn't sort of until it finished. I looked back at the calendar and I was like, wow, that's almost as long as I've been married. That's older than my son has been alive, huge amount of time. And it was all very much laid on a plate. You turned up to work. There was the amount to do. There was your route. You got on with it. You didn't take anything home at the end of the day. Or if you did, you got fired because you're not supposed to do that. But there was nothing else that you needed to know at all. There was no sort of business acumen or anything like that. And I was sitting around at home, like I said, on Facebook, worried. And this seemingly innocuous little advert popped up from the gentleman who's the voice of the X Factor, the really boomy, live from London, that fella. And he'd set up a company called Gravy for the Brain, strange name, that trains people how to be voiceover artists. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I always enjoyed doing silly voices and accents and things, but surely you can't make a living out of that. But there was this guy saying, yeah, give it a go. So I signed up to this course. I got
You did a training course on it, didn't you?
yeah. So I joined this website, Gravy for the Brain,
Mm.
which is well worth looking at if anyone's interested in doing that. It's absolutely packed full of resources and training and events. It's really good. And so, yeah, I signed up for that, got a coach, learnt how to build a booth, learnt about different mics, learnt all about the industry, and also went on this massive journey of learning how to run a business, how to pay your taxes, how to do networking, all of this stuff, like in a really short space of time. So it was an interesting
I think
period.
I think it's funny that and what I imagine is that you've got this booth, and behind the booth is you've got like washing on a drying or something like that, and you got
Not too far from the truth.
and you've got it's in the spare room or something like
Yeah,
that, and there's
it exactly is.
the chair from the car that you don't use anymore because the sons have grown up and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's gone through a few permutations. When I started, it was literally a duvet fort. It was me sitting on a chair in the lounge with a duvet over my head. And a lot of people have started out that way. Call from Algeria. Crikey, you've got a good following, haven't you? And it sort of grew and grew, and it's now in a proper. It's called a whisper room, so it's an American product. It's actually a sealed booth
Right.
with a door and ventilation and all this sort of stuff. But yes, it sits in the corner of my son's playroom. It's as soon as I open that door, you're suddenly hit with reality of yeah,
Elephant flies over and hits you.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so one of the things that you needed to do, apart from find out what accountants are and stuff like that, was
Wait, what are accountants?
yeah, get business.
Hmm.
And so you kind of saw this thing called. I think someone recommended you went on LinkedIn or something.
Yeah, so it was another voiceover guy. So this training system, Gravy for the Brain, they sort of have social events where all the voiceovers get together online and do silly voices over a pint of beer. Really good fun. And I met this one guy who I've been in touch with ever since, and he said, "Oh, go and have a look at LinkedIn. That's where I get quite a lot of my work." Because traditionally, VOs would get their work from an agent. That would pretty
Right.
much be it. You'd have an agent. They'd look for you. They'd get you the work. Then there are sort of pay-to-play audition websites that people post work and you audition for. But this guy said, "Oh, actually, try LinkedIn." And I went on there and I sort of had a sniff around, and my entire knowledge of social networking was Facebook, and that was it. I remember pressing the poke button and being
Oh yes,
excited
yeah.
when
I
someone
remember
poked you
the
back.
poke button.
That was
Yeah,
revolutionary.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe the audience can like poke us or something.
Go on, poke us. Is that still a function? Can we
Yeah.
be poked?
Mm.
um, so yeah, I sort of went on there and I thought, I just don't get what this is. It's not as friendly and sociable as Facebook. It's not as hardcore and boring as I thought networking might be. It's this kind of strange hinterland. So I started looking around, and I made the cardinal mistake of trying to connect with people who do what I do
Right.
rather than the people to whom I wanted to sell my services.
Yeah.
So I got a very, very
'Cause
quick.
it's very easy, isn't it, to go, "I'll connect to all the people I know,"
Yeah,
and actually they're friends, and they're not gonna buy from us or what.
yeah. And I think that's a good place to start, perhaps, because it's an easy beginning. You know those people. You've seen their content. You can follow them. But yes, they're not the people. So I sort of had to quickly learn. Oh, okay, well I've got this circle of friends over here, but now I need to go and find people. I need to go and find video producers. I need to go and find studio organizers and people who produce e-learning solutions and all these sorts of people. And yeah,
And
being
Andrew's
poked.
right
Yeah,
about the poke function.
absolutely. Um, and yeah, it was. I just didn't know. I didn't know where to start. I'd never tried that sort of thing before. You don't get to learn an awful lot about social networking at Royal Mail. Hello, Matt. Somewhere between Lancaster and Edinburgh. That's fake. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
North.
he's trying to be like an exec, with the
Yeah, it's
"I'm driving a Jag."
that whole spy background. He doesn't want us to know. Yeah, so I just watched other people, watched what they were doing, saw who they were connecting with, and just how they were sort of using content to get themselves out there. Again, I'd always been a very backseat Facebook
Mm.
person. I liked other people's stuff. I commented on other people's stuff. Upload if I can be bothered to take a photo of my lunch and upload it. It's just not for me. But just sort of beginning to slowly learn those ropes. Learn to put content out, learning to do something that makes you stand out, that makes people look at you and go, he looks all right.
Because your facts are something that's different, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. This idea was actually, it wasn't my own idea. It was given to me by
Well, it
a friend of
doesn't
mine.
matter if it was your idea or not.
No.
It still makes you different, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there are all these random little facts about the origin of the word Bluetooth, or I don't know why the fiscal year starts on the 5th of April instead of in January. All this random stuff, which I genuinely find interesting, and apparently so do quite a few other people out there. Who'd have thought? And that just sort of started the conversation, and that fact of the day thing led me to meet a load of wonderful people who from this wonderful world called the Big Life Breakfast Burrito. Eric, Matt has just popped on the screen there. So Eric and Matt and Antonio, Adam, all
So
these
Eric
wonderful people.
Doyle, Matt
Matt
Pybus,
Pybus, Adam
Vanessa.
Gray, Antonio Brickle,
Yeah. Or
Vanessa
you all
Gardell.
do this thing called the breakfast burrito, which starts at 7:45 UK time in the morning
On a Thursday morning every
on a
week.
Thursday morning. Yeah.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's one of those things that's hard to describe. You just need to go and try it.
It's the thing. The thing what I love about it is it's not just another Talking Heads interview, which is this isn't mine isn't the most this isn't the most unique format in the world. There's lots of people do it.
Sure.
This sort of where we go, oh yes, it's the ecosystem of the what we need to be is more integrated in our ecosystems. Where people actually don't watch the stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas with the breakfast burrito, it's the way I describe it. If you're from the UK, the best way it's like the Chris Evans breakfast show, or it's that fast. And I know that Eric has taken inspiration from people like Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer and Fawlty Towers and some of the English type of comedy programs, and kind of mash that into something that you can put on LinkedIn.
It's a brilliant format. It's very un-LinkedIn-ish, if that makes sense. My sort of perception of LinkedIn up until then, it was serious, it was businessy.
Yeah.
This thing on a Thursday morning is a breath of fresh air. It's kind of the Thursday
but it's still
morning
professional, isn't it?
It's still professional. There's still networking. There's a wonderful group of people that have sort of built up this relationship with each other. It's still professional. We get sponsors each week to do prize giveaways. We have people come on who are just graduating from university and need a bit of help from the network to try and get their first placement. We get people on talking about their charitable work and all this sort of stuff. But we also have me talking about random facts. You have Vanessa doing a weekly review of a wine that she's found. You have Matt ranting about whatever's grinding his gears that week. It's good fun, and it blew my perception of what LinkedIn could or should be. It's the TIS was for the LinkedIn generation. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Today is Saturday.
Today is Saturday. Watch and Andrew.
There's a random fact there for you for what the TIS was.
Watch and sit back. Wow. Anyway, yes. Smile. Was it for smile? Let's say it was smile until someone proves us wrong. So through the Big Life Breakfast Burrito, as well as making some wonderful friends, I've made some really interesting connections. I've actually got a bit of work through it that people have sort of seen it and connected with me and learnt my story and learnt what I do. And it spiraled into something I would never have imagined. It's the whole thing. I think I had such a wrong idea of what networking was. I pictured boring old men in grey suits, smile, talking about fiscal studies and things that I don't understand.
Mm.
and I'm sure there is some of that as well. But it's so relational. It can be so organic. You can just sort of be looking at someone's content, commenting on it 1 minute, and then a few days later, a few weeks, a few months later, someone will get in touch and say, "Oh, by the way, I know someone who could do with your services," or "Do you know someone who provides this service?" etc., etc. It's just like knowing people down the pub. It's no effort to say to someone, "Oh, I know this bloke from down the pub. He'll do a really good job on your roofing."
Mm.
It's just
Because
natural.
you could be in a situation, Simon, where you're doing an interview and Adam Underwood basically goes, "Fact of the day, ping."
Ping, and then I might reply to Adam about Ping, and then he'll come back to me saying, "I would like you to read an audiobook for me." Bada bing, bada boom. You just never know. Or if not, I'm friends with Adam Underwood. Great. It's win-win.
Yeah. So, is there anything else? We're here to talk about. What else have you found out about LinkedIn in the time that you've been on there? That you could give us some tips to people.
So I found out that people really don't like being sold to that
Mm.
much. I think that was sort of one of my earliest mistakes. I came on here before the Fact of the Day thing started up. I came on and I sort of just put essentially an advert out. This is who I am. This is what I do. Aren't you all lucky that I'm finally here? Now, come and give me some work. And surprisingly enough, it didn't work. People just they don't like that. They don't like to be sold to. I don't
Yeah,
like to be
nobody
sold
likes
to,
being sold.
certainly. I don't want someone ringing me up and using my first name and saying, "Hey, buy my product." So surprise, surprise, that didn't work. So I've learned that it's a lot more relational. It's a lot more. It's a slow burn. It's not an instant fix. It's not a shop window. It's something more fundamental. It's something more long term than that, I think.
And we were talking about before we came on. We have a mutual friend, which is Jazz Greer,
Mhm.
who's he. I interviewed him. He was probably one of the first people I interviewed, if not the first person. Actually, I've known him for years, and but he's a great example where you either met him online or you've been to networking events, and then
Yeah.
what you did was you had a call with him,
Yeah.
which is where
Yeah.
you got to know the person better.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, yeah, and
So
and and that's so. Talk us through that. Talk us through what you did.
yeah. Okay. So I had been to an online networking event. I was saying this to you earlier. There are so many events. I've got a poor memory. I can't remember who I've met where sometimes. But Jazz and I were on this screen of 30 other people, having a networky discussion, and we sort of took a liking to each other and what each other said. I sent him a connection request. Would you like to connect with me? I always do personalized requests where I can. I think just pressing the connect button and then
Yeah,
having this
always.
photo popping up of someone you don't know is a bit weird.
Yeah,
Um,
it is
so
weird.
I just sort of say, lovely to see you on the networking event. Really enjoyed to hear what you had to say. I'd love to connect and learn a little bit more about you. And off the back of that, shall we have a one-to-one? We had a little one-to-one from he was parked outside Sainsbury's car park on his phone, and we must have spoken for a good hour, and we just got on so well. And and all of the best relationships I've got from this whole world have come from people like that,
Mm.
or from interactions like that. I've got very little from those things where I've just spammed people saying, "Oh, I'll connect with them, never talk to them again."
Mm.
That's not what it's for. It's about building up relationship. It's about having those one-to-ones, those follow-up calls, hearing what you both have to say, hearing what your sphere of influence is.
Mm. And it's about understanding what the person is about, because I think we get too obsessed with I'm going to speak to Simon and therefore I'm going to sell him something,
Mhm,
and Simon isn't necessarily going to buy.
mhm.
And so what we have is, there's people that are going to, there are people that will buy, there's people that won't buy, but they may refer you. And actually talking to them, it's like, I know Jazz, and Jazz may say you need to talk to Tim Hughes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing is what is the amplification perspective,
Mhm.
which is, here we have a whole bunch of people, Matt, Andrew, Adam, who have decided to spend time of their day in coming and listening to what we say
Yeah,
and joining in, and what they're doing is that they're amplifying the message.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and we have to thank people for that, because
Absolutely.
that amplification is a massive um, way of spreading your influence.
Yeah, absolutely. I've recently joined an in-person networking group in Surrey, near where I live, and they very much have that philosophy. You know, there's a room full of 30 people.
Mm,
If those 30 people can learn who you are, what you do, why you do it, the good stories that you can tell of people you've helped, they become your ambassadors.
mm,
You've suddenly got 29 people
yeah,
pitching you to their connections, and the reach of that is absolutely extensive.
mm,
And I think that's something I hadn't appreciated at first. I used to think it was all about, you're here, you're in front of me. Do you want my service? No? Okay, fine. We'll never talk again. And
mm,
it's clearly not that.
mm.
Um, did I tell you about the Ukrainian photographer story?
No, tell me about it.
I'm still not totally sure how this happened. So this is totally the magic
This is the
of
magic of
networking.
social media.
It's incredible. So there's a gentleman in Ukraine who's a professional photographer. His name's Alexander Slagniev. Really brilliant photographer. He photographs food and restaurants and that sort of thing. He has an online photography course to teach other people how to do that. It's in Russian. The majority of his customers are Russian. Because of everything
The
that's
work.
going on now, he's wanted to move away from that area. He's had some people translate his coursework into English. He wants to sell it to the Western market. And as far as I can understand the chain of events, he knew someone who posted on LinkedIn, who shared to Facebook, who posted on LinkedIn, who shared to their real life networking group, who mentioned it to a person who knew me and said, "Hey, would you like to help this guy by dubbing his coursework into English?" So I'm now regularly working with this fantastic guy in a country I've never been to. There's no way I would ever have thought of deliberately going there to sell my wares to him. But there's a genuine desire of people to want to help. As soon as you hear those words, "I'm looking for a," "I could do with a," "Do you know someone who,"
Yeah.
there's like a human instinct that makes you think, oh, I wonder if I do know someone. Yes, I do. I know
Mm,
that person. Or even if I don't, I know someone who might know.
yes.
And that those sort of 7 degrees of separation, it's absolutely fascinating to me. I love it.
It is, and I think it's amazing how most of us want to help,
Mm,
and when we meet people and we have conversations with them, first and foremost, you need to be curious and interested in the person. If you
mhm,
just turn up and say, "I want to sell you something,"
mhm,
it isn't gonna it's not going to work. But it's about being generously being curious, and then actually remembering the person, saying, "Oh yeah." And this is the bit why you need to be rememberable, because
mhm,
otherwise, I had a conversation with a person who did voiceovers. What was that?
mhm,
What was that?
mhm,
And then recommending them on,
mhm,
and having that um, generosity to recommend it and expecting nothing back in compensation.
absolutely. I think that, as you say, that idea of being memorable, that's kind of part of where the content comes in. You know, I think I know at least 10 loss adjusters. I
Mm.
still don't really know what a loss adjuster does, but I know that one of them,
Maybe someone will tell us.
maybe they will, but I know that one of the loss adjusters I know, when he sort of turns up to a networking thing, he sings.
Right. Oh, brilliant.
And that, therefore, if I know anyone who ever needs a loss adjuster, I'm going to say, go to
It's a
this guy
sing.
because
It's a
he's the only
sing.
one I remember.
Go compare. Go compare. Oh
No,
no.
it's
Oh,
far better than that. But yes, it's sort of making yourself stand out from the crowd, and it's, yeah, that can sometimes be hard. Again, 17 years of a post as a postman, I've never had to think about how to
yeah.
make content. I've never had to think about how to make myself stand out from the crowd.
Mm.
So it's been a huge learning cycle. But thankfully, there are people like you, like Eric Doyle, Matt, Adam, Vanessa, all these people to learn from. It's like there's an open resource. It's
Yes.
like an open how-to manual right here on the web, and that's been so invaluable from me. I don't think I would know any of the stuff that I know now if it weren't for people like you that I've sort of learned all these things from. It's brilliant.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you. So Simon, lots of trust to try. Oh, Matt's come up with what a loss
Wow,
of is. So thank you, Matt.
wow, that's really insightful, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'll
And
mention that to
we've
my
got
mate.
and another just before and late stop press. Yeah, I totally agree with you,
That's
Andrew.
community law. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
about community,
yeah, yeah,
um, and community is something that really businesses don't kind of get, but it's kind of like witchcraft. But
yeah. I think there's a change, isn't there? I think people who have been in business for X number of years, they don't, they might well struggle to know that you need to do this kind of stuff. I can't imagine what it must be for, like, for people who didn't have this sort of facility for the majority of their working life. It must be quite alien, but so worth tapping into.
Simon, thank you so much for coming on
My
and
pleasure.
talking about it.
Thank you for having
And
me.
I hope the audience enjoyed it and got something about it. Matt and Andrew, and I think there was your friend up here somewhere,
Some scroll back.
Henry.
Henry
Dropped in,
Foxworthy, man with the best
and
name
Andrew,
online.
thank you so much if you're still
Andrew
listening for,
Slesser,
dropping in.
wonderful people.
And Simon, remind people where they can get hold of you.
They can get hold of me at www.simonwellsvo.com or on LinkedIn, Simon Wells VO. I didn't actually put my surname on the box. There you go. Still making rookie errors. The box says I'm Simon.
It's Simon Wells, by the way, if you're still
Simon
listening.
Wells
Yes.
VO. There you go.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Simon. Appreciate it.